All right, I'm the last person on the schedule, and I promise I'm going to be really brief, so I will get y'all out of here a little bit early, or at least get you onto your open discussion a little bit early. Okay, this has been mentioned earlier today, but just so we're all on the same page, Thousand Cankers disease has only been reported from Haywood County, North Carolina, and Haywood County is one of our far western counties bordering Tennessee. Now, this was detected by signs of visual decline, not by trapping, and as far as I know, there was no walnut twig beetle associated with it. Okay, the regulatory result of that find is that Haywood County has been placed under internal quarantine and remains. That covers all hardwood firewood, all juggling plant parts with the exception of nuts and finished products. And our regulations, which I didn't include because I kind of glaze over with that sort of thing, but it looks very similar to what the gentleman from Indiana has. That also includes, obviously, the vector itself and the pathogen itself. Okay? All right, so I'm going to present this information on behalf of our state entomologist. Alonzo Suazo is his name. I don't know how many of you have had the opportunity to meet Alonzo. He's a great guy if you do ever get a chance. And I, much like the guy from Kansas before me, I came into this position just September of this year. So a lot of this is either not my data or I was just simply not here when it occurred, but I will do my best. In 2012, the focus of our walnut twig beetle trapping was on the urban areas of North Carolina. And I realize also that urban is a very relative concept in North Carolina. We've got Raleigh and Charlotte, and beyond that, it's kind of, I guess you could call that urban. But we also focused on areas where there was some sort of known industry, such as a furniture making industry or something like that. It ended up being a total of 52 locations across 17 counties. And you can see the west here by Haywood County, by our one positive find, is pretty heavily trapped. Okay? As I'm sure they did in all the other states, these were lingering traps with the pheromone lure. These were set in the summer and left up for 2 months, and the contents were collected every 2 weeks. Again, I'm sure that's probably pretty standard. So the big result is no walnut twig beetle were detected. The good news, you might say. Okay, for 2013, our focus changed a little bit. We dropped some of the areas in the eastern part of the state and decided to focus more on the west. However, we hope we actually trapped in a smarter way. We conducted, or the Forest Service, I should say, conducted a lot of visual surveys before we set traps for 2 months before trap set to make sure that these traps were placed in areas of declining walnut. So hopefully that actually occurred. We did set less traps. We went from just over 50 traps to just over 30 traps, but we hope that we trapped smarter. Okay, same protocol as the year before, placed midsummer, stayed up for 2 months, and the contents were collected every 2 weeks. Again, no walnut twig beetle was detected in 2013. Now that was Department of Agriculture plant industry trapping, which is who I work for. In addition to that trapping, the North Carolina Forest Service did some trapping on their own. I don't have a map for that, unfortunately, but they did have 10 locations in eastern North Carolina and 15 in the west. And I understand they can correct me if I'm wrong, but those in the west focused near the original Haywood County find, as well as other high-risk areas. And those in the east focused on some of our big interstate corridors, I-85 and I-95, come through eastern North Carolina. Again, very similar protocol, check 4 times throughout the year, every 2 weeks, is what that amounts to. And no walnut twig beetle were found. So the good news, we still haven't found any walnut twig beetle. We are going to change our focus yet again for 2014. And what we're going to do is have the Forest Service trap the western part of the state. I was told, again, I'm new, so this is not my opinion, but it's probably true, that they're just simply better at finding the stands of declining walnut. It's just what they do. They're out there and they're better at it. So for our trapping in 2014, the western part of the state, that will be done entirely by the Forest Service. And the Department of Agriculture Plant Industry Division will focus on the North Carolina-Virginia border. We have a couple really large lakes. I wouldn't expect y'all to be that familiar with North Carolina geography, but again, also the interstate highways. Okay, so I don't know, I guess time will tell if it's the right thing to change our focus every year, but I think so far we've been doing it because we keep having slightly different information to work with at the beginning of the year, and also we just want to stretch our resources and look in as many places as possible. So again, though, I want to reiterate, we haven't found any to date. We actually don't have any big news to report, so that's good. Though we'll continue to look because, of course, we have this to the north and to the west, so we won't count it out just yet. Okay, well, that's all I have.